Bruce Mitchell, Person Torch, and also on the podcast today from GreatestWorldSports.com. Bruce, a busy man, going to be retired for teaching, but look at these WWE guys. Some guys not as busy as others, but had a lot of releases there lately from the WWE. A lot of guys been let go. They requested their release, and some they have granted those releases.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, they also had a drug. They had a couple of drug suspensions. The first time in 3 years. It was just, and they, they're very quiet about it. So what that was, who knows? But I mean, it's a month for both guys.
One of those was Bobby Roode, right? Impact from Impact Man.
But the other one was Primo Cologne, which was. Really? He still works for WWE?
He hasn't been in the ring lately, has he?
No, I mean, he has been. They want to keep relations good with Colognes in Puerto Rico, but still, that was kind of surprising. But to flunk a drug test too, and then, but they do test, and then Luke Harper, who had known. I mean, they came back briefly with Eric Rowan a few months ago, part of that Eric Rowan angle, and then. But it's been known that he wanted out, and it'd be interesting to see. I'd love to see him.
Where does Luke Harper go?
I think AEW, but I mean, I think he's or New Japan. I think he's got his. He can kind of held back how physical he
looks like Bruiser Brody.
Absolutely,
looks a lot like
Brody Lee was the name that he went through. But I mean, they never really could. And it's hard to be that guy. It's hard to be to live up to Brody. But he's a wrestler. You would think that would fit in with a lot of places, and so, but yeah, it was expected WWE wasn't going to release anybody, and they released a few, and there's a lot of wrestlers who'd like to be out of WWE that are frustrated with the creative, frustrated with what they have to put them, and what happened in Saudi Arabia, they did a good job of. I guess, of getting that behind them or smoothing it over, whatever it is you want to say, whatever you want to call it. But the people that were there and the families are not happy, and so we'll see how that goes.
What about AJ Styles? Is he still? Is he happy now, AJ Styles?
Yeah, I mean, I think that AJ Styles is in a position he re-signed with WWE, and I think this is. I expect that this will be his last wrestling contract. I mean, he made good money with TNA. He's made very good money with WWE, and made it all the way. And I think that's I think that he probably is looking at, okay, let me do this, and then whether he's an agent or whether he the guys that finish up with WWE.
Because we talked back during the summer, you felt like he may go to AEW, but I guess things got hashed over and he got his money.
Yeah, he got his money. He got something he was happy with. So, and that's what's cool. That's what's cool for wrestlers right now is instead of having to just accept what the what the monolith.
Are you pro or con on these long-term contracts, 5-year deals? Is that good or bad for some of these guys?
It depends on your situation. It'd be good if you're Randy Orton. I think it's a good thing. If you're because Kanellis, if you're Mike Kanellis is a very bad thing. They you tick them off right at the beginning and they punish you on the air. They hurt or ruin your marketability. You're in a bad situation because you got to sit there. And he's trying to,
when he leaves, he'll probably have to kind of almost start over when he leaves.
Yeah,
have to reestablish himself big time.
There are some of those wrestlers that, on the lower end of the card that aren't going to be in demand when they leave, and so that'll be interesting. Depends on what a guy like Luke Harper, people knew, you can look at him and see the potential, but Mike Kanellis is different, and and the last thing, the thing people are going to remember about him is that awful thing with his wife, that angle that he was in, and he's going to have a hard time, living that down.
It sure worked out good for Dean Ambrose / John Moxley, didn't it? Worked out great for him.
Yeah, well, he's one of the top guys, and but he's also an example of the frustration that a lot of those guys feel, and I imagine Seth Rollins feeling it right now, and just the way that the creative is done, where it's wrestling but it's not wrestling, or it's very doesn't make any sense. It's a tough thing. So.
What about making sense of this? They've talked some on the internet about maybe a match at WrestleMania between Stone Cold Steve Austin and CM Punk.
I think no. Absolutely
don't see it
not.
happening.
I don't see Stone Cold Steve Austin ever wrestling again, unless something happens where he's just flat broke and he's not in that. He doesn't spend money like that. He's not in that kind of situation. But Steve Austin wrestling, he'd probably get through a match, but there would be a real possibility of him getting paralyzed for life. So it's like he's not doing that.
What about CM Punk?
CM Punk, he's working for that Fox backstage, and the expectation is it's going to set him up into something with WWE. Not necessarily, he hasn't signed anything with WWE. He's not, but I expect my expectation is CM Punk and Seth Rollins. But we'll see. And CM Punk is the babyface and Seth Rollins is the heel. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know if that'll happen or not.
While we're on this nostalgia kick, what about another match that's being bantered around? Sting versus The Undertaker. Can that still happen?
No.
Not going to happen.
No. Sting had the match, ironically enough, with Seth Rollins and got hurt in that match. And Sting and I are the same age, and I'm way too old to be a wrestler. Sting's not looking to do that. He was in Baltimore and very private, and I just don't. That's not happening.
I've been reading this week where Sting says he wants that match. Sting wants it. I've been reading this week where Sting says he wants the match.
I'm sure he wants it.
But you say he can't do it.
I don't think he can do it. And then Undertaker, I think he's wanted the money, the payoffs, and that money, and I think he'd be better off. I don't know. Maybe, I just don't. They're both too old and too beat up and too injured, particularly Sting, but Undertaker too. And I think it'd be a major disappointment. I think it'd be a money grab. I could see them doing it half-assed in Saudi Arabia, but I'd be shocked.
What about this? What about you look at things going around this week? Tony Khan took that bump at AEW. The owner of the company comes out now getting involved a little bit on TV. Is that a good thing or bad thing this early in the build of the company? Wasn't on TV. That was a dark match then.
It was some sort of he came out
show later on the dark match show.
He did a Stone Cold Stunner.
Yeah, he did. He was part of the group that did that.
It was part of the. It was I think the cameras were off. I mean, I'm not crazy about that, to be honest.
I wonder about that
impressed
too.
with
Early in the new business, yeah.
I'm like the owners and those guys should be careful about that because we've seen over the years Dixie Carter being
sounds
the worst
just like
example.
Dixie Carter, yeah.
But yeah, the worst example of it.
And this soon in the new business too. It's too early to be doing that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he indulged himself, but like I said, it wasn't on. If I see him on television doing very much, then I'm like. But this is a guy that studied the business for many years and saw the ups and downs particularly of, and does not want to be called or be seen as a money mark. And he's got, his family has more money than the McMahons, but He does not want to be seen as, this dilettante who's indulging himself and looks like an idiot and getting laughed at behind his back. He does not want to be that. And I was there when Mark Madden, at the Tony Schiavone roast called him a money mark. He wasn't all that happy about it.
What about some of the empty seats, some of the AEW venues, some of the recent shows they put on? They made a point sometimes to get the camera points on those empty seats. I know the crowd's been good, but they've been good enough.
Yes, they've definitely been good enough. I mean, I'm not. I think when the people that founded AEW did All In and did some of their shows, and there were these special occasion shows. And they were, they were selling out. That expectation, and it set this foolish expectation among people that haven't been watching wrestling very long. I don't think nobody sells out all the time, unless you're Jerry Lawler in the Mid-South Coliseum in 1983. I mean, nobody sells out all their shows. And he did in Memphis, and every Monday night. But that, when. I interviewed the Crockett brothers, and I was very much tracking attendances through the Greensboro News and Record and through the UNCG Jackson Library when I should have been studying. I was tracking attendances in wrestling around here, and in Nashville and Richmond and Charlotte and Raleigh and through the newspaper, and they would have the attendance figures, and it was like a bell curve. It went up when it would come into the big showdown matches, the main event showdown matches. Very rarely do successful wrestling companies sell out everything, and so I mean I think they've done well, but they haven't sold out. And then they've had, a couple of shows where they've been slower. And then, what night is this? Thursday night. So last night wasn't the best show for them. It was kind of a shaky creator show, and when you have an alien, that's kind of bad. But I mean, I expect them to recover from that. But when you're on national television every week and running shows all the time on a regular schedule, like that's a different thing, and that's they've got stars, but they need to really push those stars and sell tickets now too, and they've used them to establish some other guys, and probably creatively going to be up and down, and they've been. I've been a fan. I thought they've done a really good job, but they've. I didn't like last night's show, but I mean it's not. People go, oh my God, there's empty seats. Well, there's always empty seats, and we live in this era now where people can stay at home and they basically have their own home theater. They don't go to basketball games. They don't go to football.
See, the NWA Power Hour is very convenient. I'll tell you that. Very convenient.
Yeah, and you got that. You got right there on. So that all these things are different, and now you can watch these. A lot of the shows on the internet now, primarily, you can watch them whenever you want to watch the shows. You don't have to watch it when it comes on the first time. Right. Anytime. Any access. And you can sit in your home and it's very comfortable, and you have everything the way you want it, and you're not fighting the traffic or driving 2 hours or 8 hours or getting on an airplane and all the stuff that like fans do today. And so, whether that's going to be a part of it, I mean that's a part of concert business and a part of pro sports and any kind of sports that charge you to go. I mean, UNCG playing NC State, and did they? It's hard for colleges to sell tickets. I mean,
I think the game was also on TV that Sunday.
Yeah, it was.
48.
I mean, that's what
I thought it was going to start at 2. I guess it started at 3 because I missed that first hour and I was gone. I had to be out there, but watching that.
But it was. But what my point is, and then you've got this overabundance of you got 4 hours wrestling on Wednesday night, 3 hours on Monday night. You've got Facebook wrestling on Tuesday night from the NWA. You've got Friday night 2 hours of Fox on SmackDown on Fox, and then streaming services and every other thing. And so there's not it isn't driven by customer demand. It's driven by platform demand. And so this is when I expected to see that somehow that would affect wrestling attendance. Either start a new boom period or get somebody, particularly if there was new wrestlers that were really getting people excited, or it might be that you might like that Sheik's burger, but you're not going to eat it every meal. You're not going to have it every time, and that's so I wonder about that. I wonder what the effect on business for wrestling is.
Let's go a couple of names. We're getting ready to close out Bruce Mitchell Pro Wrestling Torch and also all the podcasts in the world. What about would be Joe Hendry? Is he the future of the Ring of Honor, and is a guy like Matt Taven the past of Ring of Honor? What about those two guys?
Matt Taven, I think, is part of, Matt Taven is there and he's under contract, and I think he's had his run as Ring of Honor champion and wasn't all that successful, I don't think. And Ring of Honor's facing some challenges inside and outside, and it's when you're the third or fourth company, and all of a sudden there's a lot more product, you're going to have a bigger challenge than the top companies, and they're facing that. But they're okay, but they've got to get their. They've kind of been stayed on talent, stayed on STAID on booking, and they need to change up some.
He's got a handful of guys that stayed loyal. The other guys are moving on. A lot of guys.
Well, they're moving on, and then they can stay loyal, but it's also you need to have something. You need to change your pitch sometimes.
So what about a new guy like Joe Hendry? Do you see Joe Hendry doing well there?
There's an opportunity.
Yeah.
There's definitely an opportunity for, and there's an opportunity for guys that...
Here it is, man. Big question.
Company.
We would miss this without me thinking this right now. Where is Juice Robinson at? He never showed up again. He was there with Lifeblood. I hadn't seen him in like 6 months.
You're not the only one.
What happened to Juice?
He's had some injury problems, and then what is he going to show up in AEW? Where's he going to be? And as
order number 357, your order is ready for pickup. Order number 357.
He'll be here in just a minute.
Yes, it will be.
Come in and get that.
And then I'll have to go get it for you. There'll be so we'll see where he turns up, but yeah, he's got a look at him. That guy's got star quality, and it's not just his ability in the ring or his ability to talk. I mean, he's got that thing, and so that I expect to see him do more than he did. I was surprised he did as little as he did this year, and I expect to see him do more next year.
So what do you think now? NWA is here to stay?
I think I think that they've established a platform that they need to grow that and establish pay-per-view at least one show, but it's going to be again, I use this term a lot, but grassroots, and I know how they're taking their time, and they expect to show results. They're not going to just expand without customer demand behind them.
What about Ring of Honor? Ring of Honor is going to continue to struggle, or are they going to be able to recover?
I look at them as from what I see, and you have to, and with the same management and with Sinclair behind them, I see them not reacting to changes in the marketplace. I think they're going to struggle.
What about AEW? Going to continue to shine?
I wasn't a big fan of last night's show, but yeah, I think so. I think that they're still in those early stages, and so it's going to be how they do on pay-per-view and how people react to the storylines that they're telling, and it seemed to me that they're playing long term, which I think is a good thing, and so I want to see them get their stars back. And I'm not talking about Cody and not necessarily Cody and Chris Jericho are fine, but the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega in particular, I see them get back to being stars. I mean, Kenny Omega, I've been patient with, but it's like, he's one of the top. You think that he would be one of the very top stars in that company. Right now, it's just he's kind of.
They spent more time building the inner circle. Chris Jericho's faction.
Right.
Spent a lot of time building that.
They've done a great job with MJF, but and he's done a great job. But it's I think that again, and they have the challenges of the marketplace, but I think that they've got a real chance because them and NXT are delivering shows that wrestling fans want, and Raw and SmackDown continue this just headache-inducing product, and they've got an enormous amount of money behind them because of television contracts and because of Saudi Arabia. But at some point, you really do have to serve the people who watch you and the people who buy your product and buy your tickets. And
there's going to be some level of accountability, right? They got to have some accountability. So
I think that they need to remove. I think Vince McMahon needs to remove himself from creative. Just flat out, and just as important, build a solid structure to do the creative with. And you watch those shows, and it's a cornucopia of trying to even list how many things don't make sense. And
past 30 years or so, as we close out tonight, from the sheets on Spring Garden Street, Bruce Mitchell, Pro Wrestling Torch, and also a number of podcasts.
Clean sheets.
Very nice sheets.
Not a dirt sheet. It's a clean sheet.
This is a clean sheet, and as we turn back the covers and close out tonight from the sheets,
nice.
What about this? Was it worth it? All those years, 30-plus years of teaching and also doing the torch just about the same parallel time. Was it worth that? If you had to do this over again, would you make that same journey with the torch and teaching all together, all at once, 30-plus years?
I look at my life, getting my bachelor's degree from UC Greensboro, working for department stores and all the things that I did, and I look at it like I did everything backwards. But I'm very happy with what I ended up to. It was an honor to work for Guilford County Schools. And it really has come home to me how blessed I was and am for that. And then the torch journey, I wanted to be a writer, and Lord knows I got to be one. And as far as like making money at it, as far as like having experiences, people reading me and having some impact on very, I mean, it's, pro wrestling, a lot of people turn their nose up of it and all that, but I get to write about every single thing there is in life through the lens of pro wrestling, and it's been, the 17-year-old in me who was a secret wrestling fan and knew no other wrestling fans, but loved Jim Crockett Promotions, would have been amazed and proud of, the 60-year-old, the 59-year-old, 60-year-old sitting on that stage talking to the Crockett's and getting a chance to set the record the way it should be with them after 30 years. I mean, I take the wrestling stuff as it comes, and I'm amazed by it and appreciative of it. So I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful for my friends. I'm thankful for everything. I'm happy with. I'm frustrated and mad at all kinds of things, just like everybody is. And there's days that, I wasn't always that crazy about watching a pay-per-view and then doing an hour and a half, some sort of podcast or something right after it, and then getting up 4 hours later and going to face those little monsters. They're all wonderful kids. They really were. I mean, going to that. But you grit your teeth and do what you have to do. I know and you hustle and you work, and that's So I'm going to have to keep hustling and keep working. It's just that I'm going to change some of what I do. So
without WRAL TV5 in Raleigh, we would not be here probably today.
That's exactly right. I mean, I look at that NWA Power, and I'm like, I'm one of the few people who still around and still watching wrestling who went to a WRAL television taping. I wish I'd gone to more. And I had one of my high school classmates, Aaron Thompson, was one of the cameramen for WRL at the time, was there, and did the news and did Uncle Paul show and did wrestling. And he's working for Duke University and still around. And then the president of my senior class at Jordan High School, Audrey Green, who's a lawyer, been a lawyer for years and years, was one of Greg Valentine, the U.S. champions, girlfriends on WREL, and Ric Flair beat up Valentine and tore him out of his tuxedo. She didn't know what was coming, and still one of the great shocks of my life. I turned on television and said, "Oh my God, that's Audrey!" And
your friends on TV.
And thought of all the people that I'd ever seen on a wrestling show, she was one of the last ones. And then, I've seen a lot of people that I've known go through wrestling and do things with it, and some of them from here, So I listened to radio all those years, and I remember very much Tony Schiavone coming on with you on you, Jock Lobatamata, on the Andy Durham Sports Show, and I don't know why you did, but called me up and said, "Can you talk to him for a little bit?" And you called him about 5 or 10 minutes, and then he called me up next week. "Can you do maybe a 20-minute segment?" We ended up doing that for years, and we built it up for hours,
a couple hours,
2 hours
or more,
3. Well, I think
at least 3 on some occasions.
I was thinking three different stations, AM and FM, and maybe 4. And I'm a radio guy, but I never thought I'd have to be in there with the late Jimmy Fulmer and to be with you in a studio. And boy, that's a big advantage, because you could look over at me and give me a look, and I would be like, all right, I better shut up. So, the callers and the friends and all that. I mean, I still hear from that. So I'm very appreciative of all that.
It's been a good road, good ride.
It's a good ride, and it's not over. So
here's the final thought as we close it out tonight from the sheets on Spring Garden Street. Is there a book in the works?
Yes.
I know it'll be about wrestling, but any idea what direction it's going to take?
I'm going to say first book, but I mean the book is going to be hopefully. Been working on it a little bit. A collection of my work. I've been writing for all these years, so a collection of the things I've written that have caused trouble, that people have laughed at and enjoyed, and that about the major events in professional wrestling, and then I'm going to put some time into writing some, either some introductions to those pieces, or some things like, okay, here's what happened after that. And,
so some of it's already written.
Yes,
quite a bit of it's already done.
Quite a bit of it's collected, but I've got to go through and really pick the stuff I want. And then, if that works out, no reason there couldn't be another one of those collections. And then I've got some ideas for books too. And
do you have an artist in mind to do the graphic artwork for this book?
Yes, Neil Adams, not John Hitchcock.
Neil Adams, okay.
Neil Adams is who I've got picked out. So yeah. But I have to say, John Hitchcock. For John Hitchcock, when I first started writing for the Torch, did stuff for me, and God, I don't know, I wouldn't have done any of this stuff without walking into Parts Unknown down on Elm Eugene, just looking for a comic store and walking in and, oh my God, that guy is not a nut, and he's talking about professional wrestling in the same way that I think about it, and interrupting him and getting become friends with Hitch and attending wrestling shows. I mean, he's my I've got a lot of friends through wrestling, but he's like the guy who's up for anything, and I was up for anything, and so we would go to a lot of different things together. And boy, you haven't lived until John Hitchcock is heckled and me too, and heckled you at a wrestling show. It's a lot of fun.
Bruce, it's been good this week. We'll see you again sometime in January. I look forward to your future endeavors and a great job at Archer Elementary over the school years. You've done a great job there. Keep up the good work, and keep driving, keep digging, keep working.
I'm going to. And Merry Christmas to everybody. And Andy Durham, same to you, man. You'll be running Greensboro sports for the next several decades, just like you did for the last several decades.
It's all going to continue. It'll never die until we do.
There it is.
And the doctor said today you got one more year, so we better get to work.
That's exactly right.
Take care, Bruce.
Yes, sir.